Coffee, omwani. The Baganda call it emwanyi. Coffee is both native crop and foreign crop in Uganda. History traces coffee to be born in Ethiopia in the 9th century. Tendamanya century. How do you call century in my local language? Tendamanya mchigaragamba century is what in my local language? But history says by 9th century, a farmer called Legend Kaldi discovered that his goats were eating coffee beans or coffee berries, these red ones and green ones, and the goats were getting very good. Coffee started being traced in the 12th century, but around 10th century, the Ethiopians had seen it as a food, not even as a beverage. They were eating bakabararya omwani nk'emmere atari kugunywa aba Ethiopia 12th century. And by 12th century, Yemen smuggled it on its land. And history says by 12th century, Yemen had monopoly of growing coffee and roasting beans. And they controlled the world coffee for many years. The Ethiopians grew coffee for food and later started an idea of beverage on a small quantity, like how Uganda is currently. Now, the Dutch East Indians smuggled coffee into Europe by 12th century. And by 12th century, the Europeans were also enjoying coffee very well. Jesus Christ. That's way back, 12th century. Everyone, you start counting how many years? From 9th century, 10th, 11th century, maybe 12th century. The Ethiopians were just seeing coffee as just. But Europeans, Yemen, were controlling coffee on the world market. Now, colonialists by 1914 introduced the first coffee, which was Arabica. Now, after introducing Arabica growing around Lake Victoria, Ugandans tested coffee, started growing coffee on behalf of the British people. What the hell? I'm telling you, this is facts. These are facts you should find out. Ugandans were not taking any coffee, were not drinking it as a beverage, were only growing it for the British administrators. The colonialists were growing it for their market in Europe. Chiramanyisa abanya-Uganda bakaba barahinga omwani gureba kusha. Baragureba bataramanya ngo baragunywa. The Ugandans were growing on farms of the British people, planting coffee for them. Now, by 1914, the British discovered that Robusta was the African native coffee and the Ugandan native around Lake Victoria, and it was just being seen as a tree by Ugandans. So studies and comparisons started between the British and Ugandans to realize how coffee was really, good soils around Lake Victoria and places of the tropics. In Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, DRC were seen as powerful entity for growing coffee. Now, coffee in Uganda started being an medium of exchange, income exchange. People started exchanging it. Ugandans would grow coffee and exchange it with clothes. Actually, by 1948, coffee was an item in Uganda. That's why Baganda have a game called Omweso. That Omweso was played using coffee beans and started using coffee for foreign exchange. They would exchange it in barter trade, get spears from the British, get pangas from the British, get guns using coffee. Actually, my late grandfather used to carry coffee from Kabale to Tanzania, up to the coast of East Africa. I want to tell you that coffee captured the eyes of Ugandans. Apparently, Ugandans have woken up. They are seeing coffee as a very wonderful and wonderful entity and source of income. Coffee is becoming a daily talk, not only for Ugandans, but for Africans. And with the East African Federation, people here say that the target is to have value added into our coffee so that raw materials don't enter European market and British market or American market, or because currently most shipping companies of coffee are in black market, I can call it, because no one knows who is shipping coffee or who is exporting coffee. And it's a government interest. Ugandan government has a lot of interest in coffee. You want to know more? There you go.